Hello, Facebook Live. What is happening? Gonzalo here, Thursday night Course in Miracles at the St. Pete Temple of the Living God, USA. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I appreciate you all. And remember, the only rules of sharing is number one, that you don't have to believe, agree, or accept anything I'm talking about. It's so essential that we leave it open and remove any expectations of any sort of change or acceptance or understanding from the other parties and other people that is so essential to our practice, keyword practice, in the Course of Miracles. I was sharing at length tonight about the form that I have been listening to on racism within the Course in Miracles community. And I was so stoked by the sharing because there were some elements there that I thought really could have gone deeper. Primarily, the implication that others need to somehow validate or recognize my struggle as a black man, as the black experience in America, and others within the Course community need to do a better job of understanding and validating and recognizing that. I'm paraphrasing, but that it really owned in on the key component of Jesus' teachings in the Course in Miracles, that if we have any shred of ego investment in getting approval or recognition or even understanding or even subtle acceptance of our points of view, our experience, to try to somehow communicate our perspectives, expecting somehow even just a little bit, some understanding, with all of our good intentions. You know what Jesus says about our good intentions. Jesus in the Course in Miracles says, never trust our good intentions. When we have a hair of expectation of getting recognition or understanding back from the other person or party, we're not following guidance from the Holy Spirit, plain and simple. And so we went on and on about that because it was really important to understand the subtleties of the ego. The ego will dress itself up in all sort of spiritual clothing to try and seem like it's being righteous and seem like it's trying to do a good cause, and trying to seem like it's, helping us to become more conscious. But every time we as a personhood decide what the experience has to look like, every time we've already made our minds up about, you know what, this is what the experience has to look like in terms of getting understanding and being active in the world and expressing our opinions in the world, standing up for what we believe is justice, standing up for what we believe is right or wrong, standing up for what we believe is fairness and equality. Every time we've already decided as a person, as a Gonzalo person identity, what it needs to look like, we've shut off from Holy Spirit's guidance. We are shut down. We're not listening. So be very mindful when we get into these discussions about going out in the world and somehow addressing problems, even within the Course of Miracles community or in the world at large, and going out and addressing social problems like racism or sexism or prejudice, hatred of any kind, any type of what we would call a social ill. If you're practicing the Course in Miracles and you have decided what your interaction and activism in the world is going to look like already, you are not following guidance from Jesus and the Holy Spirit, plain and simple. If the plan is already in place about what it needs to look like and how we express what we call love, how we express our communication and our ideas and our concerns, if we've already prepared that ahead of time, we are shut down from the Holy Spirit's guidance and Jesus at that particular moment. Not shut down forever, but at that particular moment, we're not listening. We are acting on our what we call our good intentions, and we know what Jesus says about our good intentions. Don't trust them. So as opposed to trying to address problem solving the way the ego in the world does it, be it racism or any other form of hatred or problem in the world, We read tonight this section on the decision for God. We have to be so completely dependent on the Holy Spirit's guidance for all of our doing. What should I say? How should I address this topic? Who should I speak to? Where should I go? How should I communicate this and that? We have to be so completely on every detail of our interaction in this world, including activism, including problem solving, including interacting in the world when it comes to, political and social and spiritual movements. How we interact has to come from guidance if it's going to be truly helpful. Be very mindful of that. It is so easy for our ego to sneak in and dress itself in spiritual clothing. And yes, we absolutely need to display the courage and the transparency that these ladies display. Yes, we absolutely need to display the courage and the bravery to express our grievances amongst friends, amongst a tight-knit group, be it the course community or otherwise. We absolutely need to have the courage to express our hang-ups, our ego blocks, including our grievances and the complaints that we have with the Holy Spirit's guidance. If we don't do it with guidance, we're going to fall into the trap of wanting to get it our way. If we don't express things with clear guidance from Spirit, a clear guidance leading us to peace, we're going to fall into the trap of wanting to get validation and approval and recognition and understanding in the world. As worthy as our intentions may seem, the ego is guiding us at that point if we want a payback and a certain response and a certain level of, yeah, you get what I'm saying? If we want a certain level of recognition or validation on any level, the ego is guiding us, not the Holy Spirit, not Jesus. We need to get that. If we're going to wake up, we talked a lot tonight about the subtleties of the ego's hangups, the subtleties of them, wanting to be truly helpful, wanting to expose the ego as part of our practice, wanting to be transparent and deeply, brutally honest, has to come from the Holy Spirit. Because if we do it as an ego, we're going to expect some payback. And that is so direly important, to go deeper and deeper into our true identity, which knows nothing about expectation, which knows nothing about needing any sort of validation in the world. When we're led by Spirit, we are completely free. So, great group tonight. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for showing up. Fantastic. We got deep into those subtleties of our ego hangups. I left off at 1. 2, the group is wide open for anybody that's led. Speaking of openness and transparency, anybody that's led to share any sort of ego hangup that's weighing them down with guilt and shame. This is a complete non-judgment zone, and I mean that. For anybody who's ready and led, keyword led, to open up and share some burdens that have been weighing them down for a long time. And you know what they are. Primarily, we do that because we want to establish a practice in our minds to be open and transparent with the Holy Spirit. Openness and transparency with the Holy Spirit is the vehicle by which we expose the ego. If we do that, we will be led to brothers and sisters to help affirm our innocence. We will be led, and brothers and sisters, mighty companions, will be brought to us to affirm our innocence no matter what it is we have to unload. But really, the transparency comes with the Holy Spirit and Jesus to really articulate what is it that's weighing me down, that's been weighing me down for so long that I don't feel like I can open up and about. That has to come with the Holy Spirit and Jesus. And from there, we will be led with how to shed that. But that is just an essential step. That's not the end goal. The end goal is complete living in spirit and dependence on the Holy Spirit and Jesus for our being, for our identity. But a very essential intermediate step is exposing those ego hang-ups, which we felt we've had to hide because of shame and guilt. 3, what is 3? I don't even remember. I got 3 or 4 on there on the list, but they'll come to me eventually. So basically, the focus of the Course in Miracles is applying it. We don't have to understand it. We definitely don't have to analyze. We got talked a lot tonight about analyzing the past and going back in history and society. We have to look at it. We have to look at it because our hangups lie in the details. But we look at it with the Holy Spirit. Once we get too caught up in intellectualizing our past, that's exactly where the ego would have us. Hamstrung and chained to the complexity of the ego's trying to make sense of our crazy past. And that's exactly what the ego would have us do, being mired in those details. We do need to look at it with a sense of brutal honesty of how much we've invested our identity in our past, how much we've invested our identity in our guilt, how much we've invested our identity in our unworthiness, believing that we are unworthy of the peace of God, believing we are unworthy of the love of God, but believing we are unworthy of anything that we thought we ever did or people did to us, being completely lifted and being in a complete place of innocence. We feel as an ego identity that we are unworthy of that level of innocence and that level of lightness and that level of clarity in spirit. So we have to convince ourselves, and Holy Spirit and Jesus is there to help us convince ourselves. So apply it. The goal is complete, non-compromising practice, turning over every single thought to the Holy Spirit Jesus for clarity, for reinterpretation, for realizing that the thoughts are not who we are. Thank God we can celebrate. The deeper and deeper we go into this experience of clearing out the weeds, the thick weeds of those ego hang-ups, those ego false beliefs about that saying we are stuck in this body, the saying we are stuck in this script that we thought was us, saying we are stuck in this script of a physical identity that automatically brings defense, that we have to put our fist up and defend it because we're limited to this physical experience that says we have to defend our worldly identity and how much we've invested here. And if people don't buy that, and if people don't validate that, and if people don't recognize that, then we need to defend it to seek respect in this world. Every single thought we want to be non-compromising about bringing all of them, good and bad, pleasurable and miserable, all of those thoughts to the Holy Spirit for release and for reinterpretation, to help us ingrain in our minds. And we need it ingrained, and I mean just nailed into our minds, that we are not this body, we are not our past, we are not our past stories, no matter how bad we thought we did in the past or how bad we thought others did to us. We are not this body tied to this physical past. We are not the past story, and we are not our stories. We have a story, but we are not the story. We've lived a story, but we are not the story, no matter how bad we thought we've accumulated it. I appreciate you. Thank you. Have a lovely evening of practice, and may the Course be with you, as Earl would say, and non-compromising, 100% complete dependence on the Holy Spirit and Jesus for our identity, for our mind, thought, interpretation, for our doing, for our saying, for our interacting in the world. 100% dependence on Spirit for guidance. Complete and total surrendering of our assumption that we know anything and allowing Spirit to lead us no matter how daunting the task. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. Have a beautiful weekend to practice. Be the light. Feel the light that you are. Lead us. Guide us. Lead us. Guide us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.